just like that, it's Wednesday night. I hit the wrong one. This is the better one.
Yeah,
But,
it's Wednesday night, suckers.
Yeah, well, and we had a couple of weeks off, and it really wasn't due to anything bad. It was just 2 weeks ago, I helped Buff Del Campo bring a parts car back from Paragould, Arkansas, and he had searched around for months and months and months to find a good parts car because he needed some windows and some more parts, and it took up Wednesday. Wednesday was the only day I had to do it, so I took the day off, and then and then last weekend I was at the Buick Nationals, or last Wednesday I was at the Buick Nationals. So
and then I tried to actually run them on my channel just for each week, but that first Wednesday I didn't have a StreamYard account, so then I had to sign up for a StreamYard account. But then in between that time and the next time, this computer is an old ROC. It's like it's an older one, laptop. I'm going to need to get a new one because it just won't run it. I can't run the StreamYard on this computer anymore. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's just how shit works out sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, but it is Wednesday night, and we're back to the routine. So It's good to see everyone here. I'm going to start from the top. Bruce Coltgen was the first one in Wednesday night education. Bobby Frizzell at Frizzell Racing. Let's see. Matthew is here. 6th Street Garage is here. Miss Cat G. Hey, all missed yous over the last few weeks. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, well, we were taking a vacation. I was giving Professor P some time to get some projects done. No, really, it was all me. So John Wilburn says, hello, gentlemen. He's not talking to me. I know that. Let's see. And then Buick Smith says, Shane, can I get some specs on the Lizard, please? Curb weight, rear gear, overdrive ratio, tire size. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. Curb weight on it with me sitting in it is 3,300 pounds. The rear gear is 2.76. There is no overdrive. It's a 1-to-1, but it has lockup on it. And the tire size is a 26.3 diameter. I don't know the actual metric size on it. I just know the diameter size because I do that for the math. So it's 26.3 diameter.
Let's see. Buick Smith is here. Well, of course, this is his comment. Michael Schmidt. He says, hello all, waiting 2 weeks for my tech fix. Hopefully we can provide it tonight.
Right.
Keith Calitri is here, and Keith sent me this totally bitchin' video on Facebook Messenger, and it's his Coyote powered Fox body, and he was just jamming the gears on it, right? Like screaming through the gears. And there is nothing that sounds like a Coyote at freaking full song.
Right.
It sounds good. Let's see. Mama M3 is here. Mohawk 62 made it. Andrew Nelson is in the house. Good evening, gang. Let's see. Danny Boyd is here. Big Block 402. It's still daytime, though. It is. The sun is still out, and now is the time to get all that stuff you've been putting off all winter done.
That's true.
Yeah. Let's see. Danny Boyd is here. Dust Devil Garage. And then I think that's it. Okay. So, and let's see here. Buick Smith says, thanks, Shane. The diameter is what I needed for the math also.
I figured.
And then here's Tall Garage is in the house with a big O. So I don't know if that's your O face or just the O. But yeah, we're back to Wednesday night. What's these weird rankings? What are you talking about? I have no idea. No idea what he's talking about. But I've been busy working on stuff. So I picked up that Century. I picked it up literally like 4 days before I went and helped Buff get his parts car in Arkansas. And so I got the Century here. I'll be doing some videos on it here soon. I've dubbed it Clarence Cobblepot. That's its name because it literally looks like something that your grandpa would drive. It is just so perfectly grandma fresh, I guess is what you would call it. And that 3.2 liter V6, when I drove that thing around the first time, it's sat since 2011. It locked up one of the front calipers, and at 3.2, not enough beans to make it go down the street. So I had to fix the brakes on it. So it was master cylinder, 2 calipers, the hoses, the rear hose, and then a brake line in the rear that had rusted out. So we'll see how this thing goes. I mean, I'm going to try to, drive it here and there, daily it, and then we're going to throw some stuff at it and do some cheapo restoration stuff because it came with a whole slew of parts. Like there's all the weather stripping was in the back and the window felts and there's just odds and end pieces. There's paint and stuff like that. So I'll clean up some interior pieces and maybe we can make it look a little nicer.
Yeah. What I've been doing is I got my truck running again, which is amazing because it's been down since November. Actually just getting the transmission and a few other things done. It's running. The Cookie Monster's in here. I changed that over to 4150, so the alternator came off of it. And I've been driving it. Obviously, I changed the rear suspension on it, getting ready for just Mopar Joe, because we still have some unsettled business to do. And then this goes in the box this weekend. And then the Plan Z are going to be sitting right here backed in. I'm going to be working from the back to the front. And yeah, so that's the very next thing that's going to come right in here. This goes in the box this weekend.
Let's see. Doji Ming Musk says Purple Crown with number 1 to 3. And I'm not sure if that's a reference to Triple Crown. I'm not, or I don't know. Either I'm number 1 or he's flipping me the bird. But was I giving somebody the bird? I don't remember this. I hate when all the voices in my head take over. Okay. Buick Smith says the coolest thing I saw at the Nationals go. Well, let's see. What did I do? I wasn't there all day, every day. I had my kids that weekend, so they were still going. And the Nationals starts on when did it start? Wednesday and goes through Saturday. Okay, so I have my kids every Thursday. So Wednesday I went up there and I dropped off Clarence Cobblepot. I was going to put him in the car show for the cleanest barn find. And I was telling people 11 days ago, this thing was just sitting in a carport in middle Georgia. So people were checking it out. And then my son and I, let's see, they had Thursday night was they have a cookout in the pits and everyone eats for free. And let's see, we went up there on Thursday. I took my daughter and my son up there on Thursday. We drove around Clarence. And, the super fast Grand Nationals and all the GSs that had been running all day at the track were parked in the pits and everybody was having a pit party. So I decided to drive old Clarence Cobblepot around and then find some really fast Grand Nationals and then tell them I would spot them 2 car lengths and to leave. And then they were laughing about it. Let's see. I don't know if I can pull up a video.
Hey, you know what? I did pull up the chat and there's it's a little purple crown at the top and it says something Purple Crown XO or something. So I have no idea what that means.
Oh, I don't know either.
Yeah, I don't know.
All this stuff is changing so quickly.
Yeah.
So Mama M3 is saying there's purple crowns next to our name. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Big Block 402 says haven't done a lot, but I did get an intake manifold mounted on a big block Chevy yesterday. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Awesome.
Or today, I guess.
That's good because that means he's actually moving around after a surgery. So congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't have to put in a lot of effort, man. Don't break yourself after you just fixed yourself.
Right.
So let's see. Doji Mang Musk says trying to sell my 80 Chevy stepside truck with a clean body. Mexicans keep offering me $200 sad times. Well, I don't know. Maybe the C10 Nationals are coming up. You can go to the C10 Nationals and probably throw a good price on that thing.
Also, too, if you go and just say okay to the Lund catalog for that, they might offer you maybe $20,000 for that if it's got all the little Lund little plastic things on it.
Tall Garage says, Shane, what's the fix for Gen 3 Hemis eating cams and lifters? I'm sure you said before, but I forgot.
Yeah, change your lifters. It's not eating the cams. What it's doing is that it's there's not oiling to the top of the lifter on a factory lifter. If you pull them out, you'll actually see it's got a little eyebrow. They sit at an angle, almost horizontal, pretty close to it. And there's a spot on the lifter that just doesn't get any oil, and it basically rubs itself dry. And that's actually what causes the cam to go, because it's the friction. So now it's forcing it. People will think, oh, well, the cams were soft from the factory. They were, but this actually exacerbated the problem. The fix is just change the lifters to something that's got an oil band around it. Comp Cams has got the lifter, the Evolution lifter. It's got a 360-degree band on it, and it does oil up to the push rod instead of being oiled down from the rocker, so that it goes the other way, and it'll survive. That's actually the real fix.
Well, let's see. Buick Smith says, Dallas, do you think a whole transmission can fit in the back of Cobblepot? It depends what transmission it is. T5, no problem. This is not, unfortunately, I thought these cars, they were available in hatchback. This is not a hatchback. This is just what they call it at the Nationals. And people were saying, God, I haven't seen one of those in like 20 years. Like, or they call it a slant back. And Buick touted it as a fastback, but I have the actual trunk, which means the trunk opening is like big enough that you can put a letter in it.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like nothing. It has a regular G-body trunk, but the opening is super small. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a big fan of that. I was hoping to have the hatchback so I could haul stuff in the back, but you would be hard pressed to fit 10 pieces of Lego back there through the opening. So let's see. Danny Boyd says, my dad's 70 LTD had a crown-shaped high beam indicator. Oh. Let's see. There's a weird purple crown next to some of our names. Oh,
okay. I don't know. I didn't see that. I just saw the crown at the top.
Okay. So it says, looks like StreamYard is giving crowns in chat for posting comments.
Oh, okay.
Danny Boy says, what is he going to do with the crown? And then Doji Mang Musk says, how am I in fourth place? I usually listen and don't type a ton, aka lurk. That's fine. I don't even have a crown, I don't think. I guess Shane probably has a crown now because he posted in the chat as soon as we started. But let's see. Bruce Cultgen says, click on the purple crown. It says you can gain experience points. Okay. Michael Schmidt sent 1350. Thank you so much for that rear brake hose. And we want to see that Buick on the track, granddad style. Well, it's ironic that you say that because it is going to get some track time. It is going to get track time with the 3.2 V6. And in the 8th mile, I bet it still runs like less than 20 seconds. But it is not a rocket ship by any means. It is a 3,400-pound car with like 120 horsepower. Okay.
It's not a rocket ship. I like that.
It's far from that. Let's see. All right. So SSR Performance is just showing up, says, what's up? Late to the party. Well, the party is just getting started, and now that you're here, we can actually officially kick it off. Nothing new to report except for I have been for, I guess, the past 4 months gathering parts for the 63 Buick. I got to get back on that thing. And after going to the Nationals, I realized I am not sitting out next year. I'm going to go there and I'm going to crack some skulls and I'm going to have some fun. And I don't care if it absolutely bankrupts me. I bought the car to have fun, and I'm doing anything but that. So we're going to go see if I can get this thing ironed out. I don't know if it's going to have a 4-speed. It might have a turbo 400. I haven't figured it out yet. But we'll get it together. And then by the end of this month, I will have a narrowed 9.3 Pontiac Olds rear end, or the end of June, I guess I should say, and be ready to go hit it pretty hard.
Yeah.
Bobby Frizzell says Nitrous will make it faster. It's funny that you say that because it is a V6 Buick, and they do like any of the Buick small block family. They like cylinder pressure, and hence the Grand National, right? Think about the Grand National with 15 pounds of boost. They run pretty good. It doesn't know how you're making cylinder pressure, so I bet it would run all right with a bunch of nitrous on it.
Yeah. Speaking of nitrous, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that I'm going to be doing a lot more. Actually, I'm going to be the engineer for the new nitrous for the Edelbrock group. So we're going to make nitrous great again. I got a lot of ideas. Can't talk about them, but I can tell you that we're going to make nitrous great again, and it's going to be fun. I'm actually very looking forward to this project. These line of projects, not just one. It's a line of projects in the nitrous.
Well, I think the nitrous thing is like I've told you that before. I think it is. I don't know how under engineered because nothing has really improved since the initial iteration of nitrous oxide and then like for racing in like
the only improvement is that they've been fine tuned.
70s.
The only improvement is that they've been more fine tuned, so they come closer to a tune than they were before. They were really super fat and out of control, but now I've just noticed that they've got they know how to the rate of nitrous per fuel and what type of fuel, and the timing is pretty spot on nowadays. But I agree with you as far as the engineering side of it. That's what we're going to try to change.
Let's see. Okay. Michael Schmidt says he wants me to get 2 times with Clarence Cobblepot, one with the AC on and one with the AC off. Well, it's going to have to be like the AC is literally off right now because it's in the trunk. It's the compressor is locked up. This car has sat since 2011. So I spent a week just getting the brakes working and the car running right just to get it in the, they had a survivor class at the Buick Nationals. And I thought, how cool. This thing is so clean. Let me drop it off at the Buick Nationals at the car show in the survivor group. Well, just so happens I was the only Century in the whole entire place, believe it or not. And then everyone was walking up to that thing going, my God, that is so clean. But look, guys, that car is hideous. It is hideous. It is like drawn by a 7-year-old child. And then when they got to the B pillar, they were just like, fuck it. And right down to the trunk lid, like right down to the rear bumper. And it is hideous, but it is a good hideous. It's like gremlin hideous. Okay. Dust Devil Garage says, it could be a rocket ship. It is shaped like something from Star Trek. That it is. Danny Boyd's saying put a switch pitch 400 in it.
I was just going to say that. They got to have the switch pitch. Where's that?
Well, hey, FYI, I went and picked up Buff Del Campo's parts car over in Paragould, Arkansas. And the switch pitch running over there with the trailer behind it, the Suburban, got 15.5 miles of the gallon towing an empty trailer. When we loaded it and towed it back, it got 11 miles to the gallon. So I'm on par, if not better than a new truck at this point. But Buff fell in love with switch pitch Turbo 400. He thought it was the coolest thing.
We need to get him. We need to get just a shirt that just says switch pitch. It just needs to be made switch pitch.
I just think it's funny if I throw it. Okay, let's think about this. Old Clarence Cobblepot maybe makes 120 horsepower. All right. We throw a Turbo 400 behind it, which is going to gobble up about 40 of that. Mm-hmm. Imagine how bad this sucker would drive. I mean, it would have the infinitely like lifetime useful transmission because it would never get broken. But it would just gobble up every freaking ounce of power that thing made.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, passing somebody would be impossible.
As soon as it goes to kick down, it would actually slow down.
Yeah. I think what would happen is you would go into high stall in the switch pitch and it put so much load on the alternator, the car would freaking almost die. It barely runs 65. I mean, it is that anemic.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Doji Mang Must says going to the first local car show Friday. Local folks parked by Sonic. Finally getting nice here. Well, hey, good. It's about time. It's been the weather here Professor P and I are like in the same state. We're both in Tennessee, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the weather here has just been absolutely atrocious. It's either raining, hailing, tornadoing, winding, or just overcast. And then last but not least, I guess, if it's not doing one of those things, it is literally 10,000 degrees with 100% humidity.
And every weekend it's been raining. Every weekend.
Yeah. So Danny Boyd's saying put a Super Turbine 300 in it. That would be better than the 400, but yet it's only got 2 gears. I can only imagine how anemic that thing would be. Val 360. Jimmy says, hey guys, nice to see you back. We took 2 weeks off, and now we're back at it. So we won't have another break until No Name Nationals, probably. Let's see. Michael Schmidt says that car needs a raccoon tail.
That's awesome. That's a great one. I like that.
And then Buick Smith says, my Performance V6 Buick book says to de-stroke the 3.2 liter with a 3 liter crank, and then makes a 2.5 liter V6 stage 1 heads and 6.5 inch rod with 1.7 compression height, revs to 8,000, used in some kart series cars.
Yeah, like the NASCAR engine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
not NASCAR, but the Busch car. When it
was that whole engine was just like the V6 Buick came into its own in the 80s. And really it was through kart, IndyCar, and the Busch Grand National Series. There's possibilities to make it 274 cubes. Then they got the stage 2 heads that flow 423 CFM on the intake side, which is a serious number. That's like Gen 3 Hemi numbers, or the major LS cylinder head numbers. And I've never been into the V6 Buick. I like the 300 because it is a V6 Buick, only V8 form. So I don't know what I'm going to do to it. We'll figure it out. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards putting a 300 in it, because the 300 is a direct bolt in that car. So that would be kind of neat to have a 300 in there, and it went away in 1967. But I also got on the back burner, don't forget, the what if 300, 350 heads on a 300 block. So
that's what you should do.
Yeah, that's what I should probably stab in Clarence Cobblepot, and a new nitrous kit, and just go whack some people. But all right. Michael Schmidt says, Shane, we need some single barrel carb nitrous kit. Make it happen.
The problem with that though is that there's no way that carburetor is going to flow enough air. The whole idea is when you're injecting the nitrous is that it pulls a bigger draw. So basically you'll be running it off the nitrous and the fuel instead of the actual carburetor at that point. That would, I don't know, man.
I would look at it like this. When you put the spray bar in there on that single barrel, it would take up so much room, and it'd actually be like a 10% volume difference.
Yeah. And what would you spray it with? Like, because most of those cars, like say a Slant 6 makes barely 140 horse. You put 100 horsepower to that thing. I mean, that's a lot of power that you're increasing instantly. So I don't know, man.
Well, it'd be like putting a 250 shot on a big block.
Yeah.
It'd be similar. SSR Performance says Rusty Nova will be a test dummy if you need someone for nitrous products.
Perfect. Yeah, because
and they don't live all that far from you. So I mean, when you guys run out Holly Springs, you say, "Hey, James and James, load up your Rusty Nova, come down to Holly Springs, and we'll try some stuff out."
Yeah, because that's actually what I've been doing here. Is that I had Induction Solutions on this. I took it off, and I put one of the old Zex perimeter plates on it just for testing, so I can. And I actually flow tested it here. So I did a nitrous run on it. So you weigh the bottle. You run it for 5 seconds. You shut it off with that plate. So that way I know how many pounds per hour. You can calculate that. And then I did the same thing with fuel. So I would run the fuel for, at 7 pounds. I did it at 6.5. I did it at 6, just to see how much fuel it would do over 5 seconds to get that pounds per hour. That way I can get my stoke between the two. So that way I could make sure that this plate was capable of actually performing the same as my other one. And this one actually gives better distribution than that one by a lot. So I noticed that with the induction solution one is when I got up to the 250 mark, I would start getting unevenness. And I actually showed that to Dallas when we're at No Name Nationals. I sprayed it. The first pass, I did a 250 kit on it. I had to pedal like 7 times, it seemed like. And then finally went down through there, but it got back and the plugs were like, the one that was actually running a little fat before with the 200 kit now was actually running really lean. And so it was just all over the board. So I'm hoping that this will I want to tune up that safe first off. That's why I float it, so that way I can make sure it's the same. But I go to the racetrack. I'm going to hit it with the same to see if I get the same numbers and also to distribution.
Well,
yeah, it's all right.
Bobby Frizzell saying, Shane, make it easier for guys with 2 carburetors to run nitrous. Guys trying to sell me 5 times the stuff to run it on dual carbs. There has to be an easier way.
Yeah, you can you're going to need 2 solenoids for the nitrous and 2 solenoids for the fuel, but you can split them. So instead of running a -4 line up to there, you'd run a -6. So then you would run a -6 up to there. You'd run a purge solenoid, so you'd only need 1, and then you could just split it right there. So you run it from each nitrous solenoid and then over, and same thing with the fuel. It would work. It'd be just fine. Obviously you wouldn't spray very much. Probably 250 on each plate is what I would be the max with, or maybe even 200 on each plate through that -6 line. But that would be fine because a -6 could easily flow 450 horse. So yeah, you should be fine.
Michael Simple. Robert Embry saying should be an AHRA award, switch pitch award, right? And then John is saying, I can dig it, switch pitch award. So I guess that looks like we might be getting a switch pitch award. I don't know. John and I actually made up those awards the first year on what we were going to do. And most of it was like just kind of pull stuff out of thin air and think about things that you would want to get a trophy for. Where that originally came from is Shane and I used to race this series in Southern California, the NA 10.5 group. And we were at Match Race Madness in Southern California. And there was this guy named Ron. I don't know. We made a couple of awards. It was like best oil down or hard luck award. We did all these like awards that we just made up our own trophies and handed them out because there was only like 1 or 2 guys that would get a trophy that was worth a crap. And this guy named Ron, I don't remember what his last name was. He showed up at every one of those events and generally was the first guy gone. And he was running a small block with a ton of nitrous, and this thing would leave on the bumper. Yes. Right? It's like
straight in the air.
Yeah, he did not spend any money or time on suspension. It was all about how much he could whack down to the ground, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody else was getting them all dialed in. Like hardly anybody would pull tires more than like a foot, maybe 2, because they had the front end strapped down. Ron gave 0 fucks, and he was about to put a smile on everybody's face at the track. That's what he was there for. And so we acknowledged him and gave this guy an award. Dude, I'm telling you, that was probably the best day of my life because here's like, he was probably 65, 70 years old.
Yeah. Old man. Yeah.
Yeah. And he had never won anything at the track, never gotten an award. And we hand him this homemade trophy for best wheelie.
Yeah.
Big crowd pleaser, something like that.
It was best wheelie.
This dude had tears streaming down his face, which made me start tears streaming down my face because it's like, man, this meant a lot to this guy. And then for like 2 years, this dude messaged me every time that came up in his Facebook feed. Hey, man, this was the best day of my life at the track. And then that's where, we started to come up with ideas of what trophies should be there. Winning and getting a trophy, yay, you're going to go home. People that win a lot call those dust collectors because you put it on the trophy, or on the mantle at home, and it freaking just collects dust. But people who appreciate it, that's a whole new world. So you make an award just for them, and that's.
And I want to say too that it's not like we made a trophy so everybody gets a trophy. These people did something absolutely extraordinary that made them get a trophy. Like they stood out hardcore, even though they didn't win.
I think there was 5 trophies we gave out. It wasn't a lot, okay? Mm-hmm. There was like 5. One of them was like best wheelie. One of them was best burnout. One was like closest race, right?
Yeah.
Winner of the closest race. Then we had a hard luck award
Yes.
that was all made out of like garbage that Shane got out of the garbage pile at Crower and then big welded it together and put it on a plaque, right?
Yeah.
And it was like a broken cam and a broken rod and
Just destruction.
Yeah. And the craziest part was the guy to win that, he showed up there and it was the first time out for the car, first pass. And it ran like, I don't remember what it ran. It was pretty fast, like 620s maybe.
Something like that. Yeah. It's pretty good.
And then it just scattered the motor at like the 600-foot mark.
Yeah.
And first pass, first time out with the car. And he was so like down, you know, because it's like, man, I just worked for 5 years building this car and it scattered the motor. And then we gave him that hard luck award. And he was like, dude, believe it or not, this is just a bunch of junk welded on this trophy. But man, it takes a lot of the sting out of that blowing up.
I remember that one. That one actually, I felt that one a lot when we gave him that award for blowing that, because man, he was just down.
Yeah.
And hey, real quick, I wanted to say something about Mr. John Wilburn. John Wilburn is going to be having a content creators workshop on his channel on Sunday, June 1st. So then it's going to be about the 30 shorts in 30 days. And then he's also going to be going over the No Name Challenge 500. Who's in it? Who's needing 500 subs? Yeah, all that stuff. So go and check him out. Like I said, that's going to be on June 1st on his channel.
Buick Smith is asking me, does Cobblepot have the velour seats? Cobblepot is actually a highly optioned car. It came with air conditioning and cruise control. And let's see, what else did it have? It has an AM/FM cassette player in 1978. That was a big deal. And it has a clock. And then that's about the extent of it. I pulled the hubcaps off and the Steelies, and I found a set of Buick wheels on Marketplace, and I threw them on there with all the money everybody donated. I bought those wheels and tires and threw them on the car, and it looked freaking awesome. So it looks like something, I don't know. You have to see it. I'll do a video on it because everybody wants to see it, and I think the car is just like super clean. You know, I don't know how else to say it. It had the stock GM master cylinder on it, and I couldn't find another one replace it that said made in the USA and had the clear see-through little window that said Min and Max. I end up just putting some Chinese even junk on it like normal. Let's see. SSR Performance says, I'd like to see how you flow your fuel system. Nitrous seems pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, actually, it really is. If you've got nitrous, you actually flow your nitrous system. So you have like a 73 thousandths jet. So when the nitrous is running, you basically flow it and you set it at 6 or 7 pounds or however you're doing it. But really, it's really simple. You take your plate, you put it into literally a bucket with a scale, or you can just put it next to it. I put the bucket on the scale, hit tare, put it underneath the plate, hit the button, and then my nitrous, I'll run it for 5 seconds. After it runs for 5 seconds, it shuts off automatically. I take that out, and then I put it on the scale, and I weigh it. I do that 5 or 6 times, and that tells me the gallon, basically how much is flowing for 5 seconds. Then I multiply that by, I think, 720, to get an hour. And then that tells you pounds per hour. Because, these engines are just, they consume the fuel with the oxygen. So if you know how much nitrous, and you can do the exact same thing with nitrous, put the nitrous bottle on a scale, hit tare, so it's 0, hit the button. Obviously, don't do this with on the plate, just have it spraying up into the air. You hit the button, you run it for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, 2 things. One, measure how much it weighs now. So it actually is going to be a little less, but it will actually, it will tell you that it'll be a negative number. And then you multiply that again, that will tell you pounds per hour. And then also to notice how much pressure drop. So what I'm doing too is that if I'm going, say a 200 kit, I've noticed that I've been getting about 40 pounds of drop going from one to the next. So this way too, going in. If I'm at 900 pounds instead of 950, then I'm going to be at 850 at the end of the track. So you'll know that, okay, the car's not going to be nearly as fast on the top end as it has been. So it's just things that you keep track of, and you'll notice pressure drop.
And then, that will change. The lower the bottle pressure gets, the less volume it will lose.
Exactly. And then what I did too is that I did it at 900 pounds, and then I noticed that it was actually flowing about 20% less with the same jets and the same everything, even at 94 degrees. And I was using water, 96 degrees water, to warm up the nitrous bottle. Then I would take it out, rub it off, put it on there, and then I would do the test. So it's really a simple test, and everybody should do that. So that way they know the nitrous is a pretty standard number. The fuel is always the anomaly. So any nitrous plate, you can really, they're going to be within one or two numbers, like a 50 jet or 70 or an 88 jet. They're all going to be within one or two numbers of that. It's the fuel side that's always the anomaly. And that really comes down to solenoids, also two solenoid on the nitrous side. If you have a 110 or under, things are going to change. But if you're at a 125 or 122, that's going to make it a much more even flow when you get up into the higher numbers. 178 for the fuel side doesn't seem to have any restriction when you start getting up into the higher numbers of, say, 200 to 250. But it's if you do that way, you can put together your kit and then see if your kit matches them, because all these are engines and they're not one size fits all. This way you can flow it right to your engine. You can tailor it right to your camshaft, where the RPM is at, cylinder head, flow, everything. You can basically tailor it right to that, right out of the box.
So Mama M3 says or M cubed, I guess I should say, Colleen Tebow. I love the specialized trophies. She's talking about Norman Nationals. A standard cup or car on top gets boring. Right. Shane and I did ours, just old set of pistons and rods. They were actually new, but it was like the coolest trophy top because you already had them. But
and I always do a specialized trophy for the No Name Nationals. I'll have another one there this year.
Blue Creek Garage wants to know, passing No Name Nationals tech question. Anna 67 Mustang has a plastic flex fan. Will it pass tech? Yes, that'll pass fine. Yeah. Danny Boyd says he blew up his engine, transmission, and rear end. That's
a trifecta.
That's a suck day right there.
That's a shitty day.
Bobby Frizzell says, wheelies are awesome. I love to stand it up. The kids will remember that forever. They will forget wins next week. Wheelies are forever. So it's funny that you say that, because if you remember last year when the No Name Nationals 28-10-5, I drew Michael Yielding the first round, like literally the slowest car versus the fastest car there. And I was like, oh, this sucks. I'm going home first round, right? So I came back to the pits and I told Shane and Deke and Kathy, I said, I'm just going to grab a wrench. I'm going to pull these front travel limiters off. You're going to want to get your camera. Come watch this, right? And Kathy's like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, just be up in the stands when I go run, because you're going to want to see it. And so I went up there with a plan to just murder the tree. And then I took the front end travel limiters off of it, because it used to do these crazy wheel stands. I've got it pretty tame now compared to what it used to be. I mean, it used to smack the oil pan, and like I was always afraid it was going to smack it hard and knock a hole in it. But I went up there and just freaking, and you see that the intro of John Wilburn's videos where I just put like, I don't know, all kinds of tree on Michael Yielding and wheels up, and everybody was pointing to my lane. I just didn't have the extra 300 horsepower to pull it off.
If you had the extra 300, you got them.
Yeah. Let's see. Michael Schmidt wants to know, does Cobblepot have 4 cigarette lighters and a record player? No. Matter of fact, it don't even have an ashtray. It has a 2 gauge pod assembly down there. So it's got water temperature and oil pressure, which on a Buick, if it's not knocking, you're fine. And that's about it. So what's sad is, like, you drive around, you start it up, it's like 70 pounds of oil pressure. You put it in gear, drive 27 feet, and it's at 6. So that's just normally how they are. Once it gets hot, they lose their oil pressure, and that's what sucks about them. Let's see. Danny Boy says my ex's sister had a Buick like that. Hers was white with a 3.8 automatic and either a tan or green vinyl interior. That was nearly 4 years ago, but I rode in it once or twice. Well, that's fine. Like I can tell you right now, it probably was hideous color combination. I got lucky with Clarence. It's light blue over dark blue two-tone, and the interior is the same way. The only problem is all the plastic panels inside are this baby blue color that I know if I could find 40,000 Centuries in a junkyard somewhere, there may be one with blue door panels or blue interior panels. So I guess the interior paint is my best friend.
Good.
Yeah. Let's see. Clayton's Toolbox says, I'm used to the quarter mile. How do I gear for the 8th mile? I currently have 355 gears. I doubt I get into 3rd in the 8th mile. 3-speed auto, 26-inch tall tire, mid-11s in the quarter. Any gearing advice? I think Shane has the same gearing advice that I'm going to give you.
All right, let's hear yours. Go ahead. I want to hear.
When I put my T-Bird together, I was stuck in this dilemma because a majority of the tracks these days are 8th mile.
That's right.
But when I started looking at it, who cares what number you run in the 8th mile? I gear it for the quarter, and then I can run every track.
That's right. I'm the same way because that's basically Dallas and I would always run. My car was actually set up to run in the Heritage Series in NHRA, which was like we'd go to the March Meet, Hot Rod Reunion, and a few other races, right? So that was quarter mile. And basically the 8th mile is what I would call practice, right? And that's the local track I had. So whatever it did in the 8th mile is what it did. I didn't care because I was set up for quarter mile. So that's the way. But I can tell you that with not having a quarter mile track around me now, anywhere close to me, this car now is set up for 8th mile because if I set up for quarter mile, it wouldn't be anything around here.
Yeah. And my car is still set up for quarter mile. It has a 390 gear in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, which is, gosh, in the 8th mile is just murderous. I mean, that's why it's so hard for me to get it down into the 5s is because, think about it. It's only got a 390 gear. Mm-hmm. It's having to lug so hard to get some kind of decent ET in the 8th mile. If I had like a 430 gear in that thing, oh my God, it'd be like 570s or something probably. Let's see. Bear Rose Garage is in the house. Great to see you all again tonight. Let's catch up. Okay.
I'll go to Loud Burns right to 2 down from that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
He says, go for it, Shane. Oh no, the gas laws. PV equals NRT.
Yeah. So basically he's talking about like Avogadro's law, Boyle's law. I can't remember them all, but basically PV equals NRT is the ideal gas law. Here's how it works for nitrous, but yet it doesn't because of the phase changes. So you can use PV equals NRT at different points. So one in the nitrous line, PV equals NRT. The second that it goes through the solenoid, that's going to be a phase change because now you're going through an orifice. So now it's going to be a phase change. So then you would have to do PV equals NRT at that point. Then when it goes through the jet, that's going to be another PV equals NRT because that's another phase change. And that's then
orifice. That's actually
it's closed orifice. Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
What actually is, it becomes a, what do they call that? I can't remember what it's called. That becomes your restriction.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And what it does is that your pressure on both sides won't be equal.
That's right. Because the phase changes. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So you'll have 900, even though you have 900 or 950 in the line, beyond the solenoid, that's the reason why you want to run the biggest solenoid you can. That's why a 125 is perfect for anything that's going to be up to, say, 300 to 350 horsepower nitrous because it has less of a phase change when it goes through the solenoid. Then when it goes through the jet is the final phase change because that right there is the closed orifice because you're going to have 950 pounds on one side, and then it's going to be screaming through there. And then when the liquid actually expands into a gas, that's when all the energy is released at that point, and that's the final phase change because it's going into because it's less pressure. And so then the temperature, when the phase change happens, the temperature goes way down, and that's when it becomes, and it massively expands. So you're going to have 3 or 4 different PV equals NRTs that you're going to have to do, which is basically the ideal gas law as it goes through different phase changes. But the one that concerns you is the very end, and how many you don't have before you get to the end. That's how you could make nitrous great again, is by limiting that and not having to cool the lines as much. I mean, there's so many things involved in that. So
what I was thinking of is called an orifice plate,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
And what happens is you're going to have, each time you go through one of those orifices, the gas is going to contract. Well, it's actually already contracted, and then it's going to expand on the opposite side, and then it's going to drop temperature right there.
Yep.
Right. So every time you change that orifice size, when you're talking about your phases, it's going to lose energy.
That's right.
Doing that. Right. So that's what makes nitrous hard. I really think the best thing to be made up today is figuring out a different type of solenoid that works like a camera eye, right? Like when it used to open and close the shutter, where it's like a whole bunch of, it's a variable size orifice is what you really want. All right. Let's see. Fabrace Mod Repeat is in the house saying, I run 389s in the 8th all the time. It does well. It does. My car just gets into high gear at the top of the 8th mile. I mean, like the last 60 feet, it just gets into high gear. So I really wish it would have been like, running all this 8th mile stuff. I really wish I had like a 430 in it, but I know if I put a 430 in it, I'd never put nitrous on it. So I could put nitrous on the 390 right now, and it would probably pull through the 8th.
Yeah, so it would be good, because that would be perfect for that, because it would load the nitrous.
Yep. Let's see. Michael Schmidt says, in regards to Clayton's question, if he is at a 354 rear end, should he plan to keep the rear end and change tire sizes to do 8th mile, or should he plan to change his rear end for the 8th mile and change again for the quarter? I would change tire size.
Yeah, don't change the tire size, because the taller the tire, the better rollout, because a traction footprint long ways is better than a traction footprint fat ways. So yeah, I would try to keep them as tall as possible.
I would just run the same combination that you do in the quarter mile, and whatever it runs in the 8th is what you run.
Yeah,
that's the easiest way to look at it. Are you leaving something on the table? Sure you are, right? But what racing are you doing? If you're doing bracket racing, it's negligible.
Yeah, who cares at that point? Yeah. And actually, if you load the engine, it'll actually be a lot more consistent with a taller gear, because it'll always be loading the converter down there.
All right. Let's see. Buick Smith says, Tech, on a GM 8.5-inch 10-bolt, can you put a 430 gear set in an axle housing that had a 308 set? It is just based on the carrier, or is it the housing itself different? The housing is exactly the same. So what happens is it's the thickness of the gear, right? So that's why they have to change the carrier. You see like a 2 series carrier, a 3 series carrier, 4 series carrier. They move where the actual flange is at to bolt the gear to on the GM, like 8.5-inch, or even the 12 bolt does the same thing. The flange moves closer and closer, because what happens is when you're talking gear ratios, let's say you got 43 teeth on your ring gear, and then you got 13 on your pinion. Okay, that's like a 308 gear. All right. When you make the pinion smaller with less teeth, the diameter gets smaller. So they have to move the ring gear closer and closer to that pinion, so that it still stays engaged. Right. So then when you drop from 10 teeth, from 13 teeth to 10 teeth, that carrier has to move the gear in closer to the pinion. And that's why those things have different series carriers for them. You can run a 430 gear set in that 8.5-inch. You need a 4 series carrier. If you have a 308 gear, you may already have a 3 series carrier. I don't know where the split is at for that 2 and 3 series carrier. It might be like the 2 series carrier does up to 308, and then 323 and above does 3 series all the way to, like, say, 390 or 410 or something. And then after that, you need a 4 series carrier. So that's how that works. And I've had to explain this to people before because they keep telling you, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, buddy. Like there's only two ways to do it. You can move the flange or the gear, or you can make the gear thicker each time. That's the only way to do it. Okay, mostly old parts. Ron Ward is in the house. Does anyone offer a full manual valve body for a 4L60E?
I don't know the answer to that. I was actually reading that as you're going down there, and I don't know. I actually tried to Google it real quick, and I don't know.
I don't think there is one. I do
Sorry,
not.
Ron.
Well, you know what? I'm going to look at it right now.
Yeah. Hey, while you're looking it up, go down to the next one, and I'll talk to. Yeah, right.
Okay, let me look it up real quick because I don't know if there is one or not. I don't think there is, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So while you're looking that up, you know that I actually have to. I'm actually in this boat right now where I thought that my 8 3/4 that was in the Cookie Monster actually had the 430 gear in it. I didn't remember that I changed it to a 456 gear to run the 8th mile track. So I had 2 different center sections. So right now I'm going to be putting a 456 gear into Plan Z with that Slant 6 and turbo with a low ratio first and second and a lockup converter. So I'm going to take it to the track and I'm going to try it with that gear. But if not, then I'll probably put like a 411 in it or something because turbo wants to be loaded, and and then that way with the low ratio gear, it'll act like if it's a 411, it'll act like a 430. So 456 is actually going to act like a 488 in that car. So in first gear. So yeah, that's going to be quite interesting myself as I'm going down the road, because doing the math, that means at about 55 miles an hour, I believe I was doing some of that. I'm going to be at like 2,600, 2,700 RPM at 55 miles an hour. So yeah. So yes, that's
So I've seen a couple of things here. Googling this, I found that Transgo makes a kit for it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also something I read in Hot Rod Magazine like probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Every 4L60E, okay, before 1993, the 4L60E, the E being electronic, was called the 4L60. Okay, and that was for like 1992 and 1993. Before that, it was called the 700R4. Every single 4L60E and its variants, 4L65, 4L70, I think there's even a 4L75E that's some weird turbo 400 output shaft tail housing deal. But every single 4L60E can be converted to a 700R4, and the 700R4 does have a full manual valve body that you can use. So that means you should be able to swap a 700R4 manual valve body into a 4L60E and ditch all the computer stuff.
Yeah.
So that may be an option. Let's see here. Okay, Tall Garage says, did you get the Light and Slant 6 that was in Plan Z?
That would be a positive yes. There it is right there. That's actually in my trailer when I brought it home in 23, I believe, is when I brought that home. So yes,
I remember when you picked it up.
Yeah. So I got it. I got it from Tony because he didn't want something. He wanted more of a car that he could put any engine in that would be easy. So that's why he got that. I think it's the Belvedere that he has now. So yeah. So I got that car off of him. The Plan Z.
Okay. Mostly old parts. Ron Moore says, Shane, how many pounds of steel have been removed from Plan Z via drilled holes?
No way to measure, because I'm telling you, I'm gonna try to figure it out. But I can tell you right now, I'm gonna weigh it. But it doesn't take anything to move that car because it doesn't weigh anything. Literally, it weighs nothing. Everything's floppy on it. Like, everything is, if it's been cut, nothing is flat or stock anymore. It's either got a hole drilled in it or it's been cut out.
Mostly old parts. Ron Moore says, I'll check into it. Thanks, Dallas. All right. Well, hopefully that helps you. I would think it'd be kind of cool to convert one of those things to a full manual race valve body, and that way you could do it for dragon drives. Okay. Bobby Frizzell says, I'm torn. I want to put a 410 in for 6 Smokies, but I hate to give up the wheelies I do with the 588s. But with a 4-speed, I'll never be able to do the road trip with 588s. You can put a gear vendors behind it,
or just go slow. I'm going to be doing 55 on the freeways. I don't care. Just is what it is.
Well, okay, we're going to be going 55 for various other reasons as well. Like if we did fall apart, you don't want to crash.
Yeah.
No. But
I'm telling you, I will not take the car if it's not safe. I promise you, when it comes here and gets jacked up, I'm going to add. The car is probably going to weigh. Tony said it weighed like 2,100 or 2,000 pounds. I think with him it was like 2,200 pounds. That's what he says down the track. I'm going to see how accurate that is, but if anything, I'm probably going to add 200 to 300 pounds to the car. It's going to be about 2,500 pounds when I'm done with it down the track. Just because if I have kids and I want to be here, and Dallas and I both want to live through the experience,
not die, not be a headline on Six Smokies for dying,
right? And plus my brother's coming along, so between me and Bobby, we're going to be switching co-drivers, and we're going to be having a good old time because neither one of us are going to be going fast by any means, at least in the drives.
I think what would be neat is you add in 300 pounds to make it structurally sound and strong.
That's what
I'm doing. Then lighten it up with even more stuff like fiberglass fenders and doors and hood. And
I think that's lighter than fiberglass that's on there because there's no reinforcement behind it. Literally, it's just the sheet metal. I'm telling you, if he sandblasted it or acid dipped it, I wouldn't doubt it because there's nothing there.
Well, I know it got acid dipped with salt in the trunk for like 30 years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Let's see. Skyhawk is checking in. He's here. And it's good to see you, buddy. Let's see. Ron Ward says that 588 gears love 38-inch diameter tires. Just get those under your Galaxy.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to have some Steelies that are going to be probably 30 inches or something if I can't, because the fender wheels are cut out of that car anyways. So I'm going to try to get as tall of a wheel in the back as I can.
Tall and narrow.
Just tall and narrow, and just. Yeah. You know, pump them up to like 40 pounds because it's got a spool in the back. So, you know, it's going to have to go around corners somehow.
Well, I think the best thing to do is just put some cheapy, like this is where the Sears road handlers would come into play, like from the 90s. You get them super tall white wall Sears road handlers that were like 31-inch tall passenger car tire made for like a full-size car and then mounted on the 15-inch wheel on for your Dart, right? And then I used to do that all the time because you could do wicked burnouts on those tires. They had like I can't remember. There was a 30,000 mile tire, a 45,000 mile tire, and a 60,000 mile tire, I think is what it was.
Yep.
And the 60,000 mile tire had a heat rating of like C, which was terrible, right? It didn't even retain anything like remotely warm. And then the traction on it was like C or D. And so that means like you couldn't, like if it was nails sticking out of the ground, you'd spin your tires on it, right? They were so bad. But yeah, my grandpa he was the guy that always bought the 60,000 mile tire. Oh, I'm going to get 61,000 miles out of them, you know? So he was that dude. Let's see. Okay. Lout Burns says, what about the tail of the dragon?
Yes.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. In fact, now everyone's kind of condemning me for this, but I'm telling you, Dallas has kids, I've got kids, and my brother's got kids. So I'm putting disc brakes on the front, and it's from 75 Dart, some takeoffs I got. But yeah, we're going to make it as safe as possible. But yes, one day is a full drive. And you're going down tail of the dragon for one full day. So there's nothing but driving one day. Okay.
And if you guys aren't familiar with the Dragon Drive, one full day of driving, including breakdowns, adding gas, repairs, whatever you got to do. I got to pee, pull over, the whole 9 yards. And like long days, really long days. And it gets to the point where after like day 3 or 4, just about every competitor is almost wiped out. If they have a rough time, you know, like if you really want to see like how rough it can be, go watch Mike Finnegan at Finnegan's Garage, or Finnegan's Speed and Marine or whatever his channel is, Finnegan's Garage, I think. and they did Sick Week with that Blasphemy 55 Chevy, and they were having just a horrible time getting the clutch set up and the EFI to work. That's why Shane is thinking his way around it right now. It's making it as simple as possible. So it's like, if this fails, we don't care. We drive to the next town and unplug it and go, right? Like it's so mechanical, it's simple.
Here's the thing too. If I have any problems with the turbo, I take it off. I put the carburetor right onto the engine
and then drive it.
And drive it. So I mean, it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah. It just needs to be unboltable and then a workaround for it.
Exactly. Literally, I'm not even going to have electronics on it. What I mean by that is I'm going to put a HEI module and then basically your forward coil, and I'm going to use the converter as the rev limiter. So when I go up there, I'm going to have a bump box on it. So basically, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to bump it in, and then just hold it to the floor and just release the button and let her eat. And then I'm just going to shift the gears, and is what it is.
So Mohawk 62 says I couldn't afford the gas to run the Scamp on 6 Smokies, even with the 256 gears and 30-inch tall tires. Well, that is one thing. I mean, you're doing a lot of driving. We're going to be a Slant 6 car. It probably is going to get like 23 to 25.
Negative.
You know? No, you think it'll be worse than that?
Yeah, it's not going to be good because it's going to be the gearing and it's going to be crap. Now, I am going to have a lockup converter on it.
Load though.
Yeah, there's no load. Exactly. There's no load, but the RPM is going to be such that it's going to
it'll just blowing it right out the exhaust.
It's blowing it right out. Exactly.
Yeah. So Bobby Frizzell says I'll go full redneck. Like nobody goes full redneck, and I'll run 35-inch mud tires on the back for the road. Yeah. You can do that. And hey, if you want, just pile up with me and Shane. We won't be flying down that sucker. No, we're just going to be cruising through and having fun.
Yeah, just we'll follow each other. I think even there's going to be a few people from the chats that are going to be on there. We're talking about a few weeks ago that they're going to be there too. I forget. The guy who drives the Angry Vagrant, who's that?
Oh, that's Dizzy Izzy.
Dizzy Izzy said he's going to be there.
Huh. Michael Robert Embry says, Shane, your brother bringing the VW to the tail of the dragon?
No, he's not this year because he's still getting in. He's never really been down a drag strip like I have. So he lives in Texas by Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington. So we're going to take his bug to either Yellow Belly or a few other tracks around there. And I'm going to get him used to going down the track. But his goal is either one in 2026 to go either one to the No Name Nationals and also two to do a drag and drive in 2026, and we'll take his car on 2026. So that is the goal, and he's been getting that thing. He's been driving it and getting it tuned up. He got a wideband fast, so he's been, he's never really tuned to carburetors before. He did a lot of fuel injection stuff, so this is all new for him. So so I'm actually excited to see his face when he goes down the track, drag strip the first time with his bug. It's gonna be cool.
Let's see. Ron Ward says that manual transmission makes the tail of the dragon much more enjoyable. I'm sure because it's always like 2, 3, 2, 3. That's about all it would be. No aircon. Come on. I mean, have you seen Plan Z? This thing has air conditioning from the factory without having a compressor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like air flow through the car. Yeah, it's like a screen door. We're driving down the track.
We're going to need motorcycle goggles inside the cab.
Yeah, we are. Yes. It is literally a screen door shaped like a 68 Dart.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Let's see. Bobby Frizzell says day 1 and 2, baby, the ride. Yeah, it's just get it sorted out and like go down the track, have a decent number, whatever you're going to do. Day 3, same thing, pretty much. I don't know. And 4, just send it by day 5. You don't care if the bitch catches fire. 2 weeks later, you wish you were back on the road.
It's true.
I imagine if Shane and I make it to day 5 or whatever is the last day, I'm pretty certain like the game plan with this turbocharged deal is going to be run it down the track, get some decent numbers. Day 5, break the wastegate lever off, right?
Yeah.
And then just send it as hard as possible.
I don't care if I scatter it because it's a leftover engine I had just sitting around. It's leftover parts. Literally, the head and all that other stuff came off the green car. The block was something I had laying in the corner. I'm doing it with all leftover parts. The only thing that's going to be on it worth the shit are the tool steel studs for the heads and the mains that I got from P1 that were like literally custom made just for Slant 6. And they're like way overbuilt. We're talking Formula One technology for these bolts. So I'm not worried about that, but everything else is factory on it.
Yeah.
So
I would worry about the cast pistons. That's where I would be worrying because, I mean, that turbo, they're not forgiving when you detonate under boost.
no, I know. Well, how I'm getting around that is I'm actually going to be running a locked out distributor that's from, like, say, a lean burn style. So when I set it, that's what it's going to be. Then I'm putting a vacuum advance canister on it, so that way when I'm going down the track, and it's going to be one of the late model ones, so it's going to have like 25 degrees of vacuum advance. So when I'm driving down the road just cruising, if I say lock it out at 20 degrees, I'll have like say 45 degrees of vacuum advance going down the road, so you get decent mileage. I can run it lean and get it going. But then when I get to the track, I just unplug it, and then I'm locked out whatever the distributor is at that point. So
and that's not the problem. The problem is adding all in that cylinder pressure. That's where it gets to be, and you have altitude changes because you remember you're driving through the Smokies.
Oh yeah,
it's not like you set it and forget it.
oh yeah.
We're literally driving through the Smokies. So if you want to put a quadrojet back on that sucker, let me know, and I'm pretty good at tuning them.
I got a VRS on their 650.
All right, fine. I don't know what's going to happen with the cast pistons on that thing because I do know turbo guys, like the second you rattle that motor one time, she's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be breaking ring lands and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And I opened up the ring lands a lot. Like it's only a 3.460 bore because it's 60 over engine. There's almost 30 thousandths of gap on those rings.
Oh, that's a lot. That is a lot.
So I'm not, I'm only going to try to run my goal with it. In fact, someone was just texting me, what's the goal? I did tell Dallas what my real goal is, but I'll say this. If I can get bring home a 7-second average ticket, I'll be happy. My last day, I'm going to try to get into the 6s if I can. If I can make the weight of the car 2,500 pounds, you're making 400 horsepower at say 10 or 12, 14 pounds of boost, whatever it is. Mathematically, it should run in the 6s. Whether it does or not, who knows? But it's going to have cowl tracks. It's going to have an aluminum drive shaft. It's going to have a way over the top transmission, and then basically a crap engine with just a bunch of shit thrown at it. But
crap, it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be interesting because it's literally like way overbuilt. The only thing that's not is the probably the most reliable engine Mopar ever made. So yes. I'm not too concerned about the Slant, with the exception of overboosting that sucker. That's the thing.
That's why I'm going to try it a few times. Now, to be fair, sitting right next to it, I have another engine that was given to me that's got Weisco pistons in it, but I know nothing about it. So it's got forged pistons in it, but I didn't build it, so that's why I'm skeptical on, but I'm going to go and try to drive this thing. If I can get 10 to 12 pounds of boost out of this thing and it survives, I'll be okay with that. I'd be happy with that.
So Bobby Frizzell says, I have a big block with dual VRS. My goal is to make it between gas stations without running out each day. Dude, take one of them things and wire it shut when you go to hit the road.
Yeah.
No one's checking your ETs on the road. I would just wire that sucker shut, take it off the linkage, and just run off the front 4-barrel. Because this has got a shared plenum, I'm sure. Because you're using that Cleveland, the 1994 Wyand, the same as I am on my T-Bird. It's got a shared plenum. You'll be fine. It may be a little bit fat up front or a little bit lean in the rear, but just don't beat on it. Just go to the next place, and that's that. And it'll probably pick up, I don't know, I'd say 4 or 5 miles a gallon just doing that.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do with mine is I'm going to put a 1-gallon fuel cell up front, and I'm going to run C23 when I go down the track. I'll run regular pump gas in it when I'm driving around, but when I go down the track, it's going to be on C23.
Isn't that oxygenated?
No, C23 is 123 octane fuel.
Oh, well, it'll get it done then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's gonna be fun. If that thing doesn't gack itself, it is gonna be a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Are we gonna be the fastest guys there? Nope. But
Nope.
just like the Baja 1000, the first victory is finishing the race.
That's it. That's all I want to do.
The second victory is if you get a place.
My goal is, like I said, finish with a 7-second average time slip, and then go on the last day and try to get the 6. So, hey, hit 8 o'clock real quick. I just want to give another little update that go and check out John Wilburn on Sunday, June 1st. He's going to be, anyone's running the No Name National 500. If you're trying to get into the No Name Nationals, he's going to be doing a workshop on the 30 shorts in 30 days. So go check him out Sunday, June 1st. And it's going to be awesome because there's a lot of people. If you watch a lot of this, Buff Del Campo, he did that, and he got a lot of subs just from doing that, and he's still doing it, and they do a lot of lives. So go check it out. Go look at his channel, June 1st, and John Wilburn will be helping you out with all that stuff to get you up there, so that way you can come and join the fun, because it's awesome.
So Bobby Brazil is saying that the trick flow intake, I guess he must be running a trick flow, has the front where it's separated. They don't share. So that kind of defeats the purpose of a tunnel ram, you would think.
Yeah, but on that VRS, we can change things on that, so that way we can change the idle circuit and then the first intermediate circuit. So because the low intermediate circuit with the in conjunction with the power valve, and we can lean that way the fuck out, and so that way the secondary, that's the whole point of that, is having the split intermediate circuits. That way in the high intermediate you can bring that fuel back in, and that will compensate for the low intermediate circuit being a little leaner. Totally easy. That's a really simple deal.
38 Racing says, next, can a 2-post switch work with an alternator, or will I need a 3-post? The 2-post switch, you can have it engaged to field wire, right?
Yeah,
can't use it just to run the field wire, and then that'll make it charge. If you set it up like a GM1 wire, and then you just
turn the power off. Wire. Yeah, I run it inside the cab, comes in, and then I just turn the switch off.
That's what I did for when I was bracket racing with the Buicks. I had a switch, and I knew it would. I could dump or gain a tenth. Yep. Like it split, and every time I ran manual transmission cars in the 90s, where they were like shooting fish in a barrel, right? They were faster, sure, but man, in a bracket race, those guys were inconsistent, and I'd throw the switch and leave the same number on there, make them chase me down and break out bigger.
Yeah. On a Mopar, I just usually use I think the green wire is just the single field. I think the blue one is the field with the power. So I'll just put it on the green one, and then you turn that off and it stops charging.
It's just along for the ride at that point. Ron Ward says Bobby would be better off running on the rear carb, wiring the front carb shut. The reason is the primaries on the rear carb will have better air fuel distribution to all cylinders. Oh, that's fine. I had no idea. I'd never done it before, but I was just thinking how he could go from a dual carburetor setup to a single carburetor setup like lickety split.
I don't think it's going to be an issue. If Bobby's got my number, we can help him get that, so that way he'll get a decent mileage out of it. And then you could just change the power valves, so that way they're much higher power valve on those. So instead of, say, running a 2.5, so where it comes in really late, you could run something really up there, so that it takes a lot to open that thing up. So that way it's always closed.
38 Racing says for a kill switch for a remote battery. A 2-post switch for a kill switch?
Oh, no, it's just an on and off switch. Oh, he's talking like a push-pull switch that goes in the trunk.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how you can do this. You can do that with...
yeah, I've got it too.
You can do that with a relay. And what you do is you run it.
How I do it is because you have to run the battery. The alternator has to run to the other side of the switch where the one that's the battery on. So that way, if you kill it, the alternator doesn't keep the car running. Right. So then what I do is the power that comes up from that side comes over, because I have a 1-wire alternator, and then it comes up, goes through a switch, and then goes back down to it. So when I kill that thing, it kills power to that one and doesn't energize it, so it shuts it right off.
Well, Loutburn says mileage. What's that? My Charger 10 miles per gallon going to work, 5 miles per gallon coming home. Well, that's like just about everybody else. I'm sure your gas mileage is always half of what it once was, coming home. As you're trying to get home to see that TV show or crack that beer or hug the wife or whatever you're doing.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, other than that, I guess we're kind of caught up. Dang, we got 45 minutes left. This is not usual. Doesn't normally happen like this. Where's all these tech questions at? We've been gone for 2 weeks. You guys should have something.
Right.
Let's see. Mostly old parts. 440 power, 69 Roadrunner, 19.22 miles per gallon, and still hauls ass. Going fast doesn't have to be expensive. No, it does not.
He's got a 4-speed. That's the reason why he's getting better mileage, because he can control that and use the torque of the engine. Keep it in the torque band, which is the most efficient. There it is.
Well, also, when you're in town, it isn't lugged up against the torque converter consuming fuel.
Yep.
That's another one. Hey, give me
a
second.
You can do what I call Mexican overdrive. Pushing the clutch when you're going downhill and put it neutral, let the clutch out, and just roll down the hill.
I'll be right back. Go ahead and talk amongst yourself.
Okay. So 38 says, Shane, when the output is on the battery side of the kill switch, the output that goes from the battery up has to be on the other side of the kill switch, so the battery side. So that way, what they'll do to test it is they'll have the car running, they'll hit the kill switch, and that will kill the whole car. If the car doesn't shut off, then that usually means that you got the alternator on the wrong side of that. And so then because of that, what I do is I put a fuse. I put a 100 amp fuse, or I think I got a 75 amp fuse, like one of those max fuses on it. Since you have a live wire going all the way to the front of the car to the alternator, since it's always hot. So even though it's even though you got the switch on, it's going to be powered, or the switch off, it's going to be powered. So that way you can, if anything shorts out on that, it'll ground out. But yeah, that's what it is. And then what I do is I come from that power side up to a switch inside back to the alternator. So that way it's not taking power from the car and then running that. You're running power from that side of the switch. So that way when it's killed, it's its own power source and it shuts off. Otherwise, if you bring a power source in from the car and then run it on a switch, then you could be backfeeding the car, and then sometimes it won't shut off.
All right. Well, I'm back.
Yeah, I got that last question from 38 Racing. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, so Bobby Brazil sent me a photo. That's what I was looking at on my phone. Is I keep getting these notifications.
Oh, okay.
What is this all about? I saw it was from Bobby Brazil, and I'm like, man, this dude's on the line with me. Oh, I thought he was running. All right, I thought you had that is an FE intake manifold. I thought you were running some kind of bottom plate piece that had a Cleveland top end on it. I thought that's what was going on there.
Yeah, then, Bobby, we'll have a plan, definitely.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. We got plenty of time. No point in getting wrapped around it now, and nobody's even looking at it. So you don't know what's going to work and what's not. Mostly old parts. Ron Ward says I also used the info from Slant Daily Garage. Hey, there's a plug for you to recurve the distributor.
I'm telling you, it's awesome. I've been doing that for years, man. So thank you, because it really does work.
Wait and see says pros and cons of tight LSA cams.
Well, it's not just tight; it's overlap triangle. So tight for, like, say, something that's got a 200 duration at 50 and a 205 is different than one that would be tight for, like, say, a 220 and a 230 duration at 50, because of the overlap triangle, how much overlap it would be. So,
well, I'm thinking when he's talking tight LSA cams, isn't this essentially a 113 or 112?
Yes, but remember, it's how much is relative to the center line of the duration at 50. So like a
Overlap.
106 is 106 is going to act significantly different than if it's a 200 205 than it would be if it was say 240 260. A 112 will act wildly different also with the same type of thing. They're going to act differently. So in relatively tight LSAs are going to make a little bit more. Well, they're going to move the power curve, so they're going to make it tight LSA is going to usually
Yeah.
it basically tightens up the power curve and make the torque come in sooner. Usually with a wider LSA, you can run them out the back door. So if you're looking for power in the upper RPMs only, look like say from 6,000 up or 5,000 up, look for an LSA that's going to be on the wider end, because that way you can carry it out. The power doesn't fall off nearly as fast. Typically, not all the time, but typically, tighter LSAs are going to be for like a lot of short track guys do this, so that way they can come out of the corner. So they're going through a major sweep of the power curve, so that way the thing builds instant torque and it's coming out of the corner at full bore. So you have a lot more in the mid range with the tight LSA cam on average.
Well, the other thing that you got to take into account is tight LSA camshaft. The bigger the cubic inch, the tighter that gets, right? Like, because if you use a small cubic inch engine, say it's a 283 Chevy, right? And you use a 112 LSA, it's still going to do the same characteristics of what he's saying. It's essentially, I look at the camshaft as like the personality of the engine. It's like how it acts. Yeah. And the smaller the cubic inch, it's still going to have the same personality, but it's going to have more RPM capability because you're talking a smaller cubic inch engine. Now, if you had a 427 cubic inch small block stroker, that 112 LSA is going to be almost to the point where it was probably undrivable in town because it would have so much torque, depending upon it, like he's saying, depending upon how much overlap there is.
Yeah.
But if you were to just say like a factory camshaft, a factory cam, let's just say you took one out of a stock Vortec engine and you put it in that same kind of scenario, 283 versus a 427 stroker motor. The 283 would be really happy around town. The 427 would fall on its face anything above like 3,500. It just couldn't get enough air to even run. But it'll have so much right off of idle that you almost couldn't even drive it. It would just be like, if you had a stick, you probably wouldn't be able to use the power band. So like, because it would be everything all in at like 1,200, 1,400 RPM.
So here's another way to look at this. I would get so hung up on the tight LSA cams. Really what you want to do is timing events. The most important timing event in anything is the intake closing event. That is the most important one. So whatever you're trying to do with the engine, get your intake closing event. That's where you want it to be. The next most important one is the exhaust opening event. So get that where you want it to be. Then you start working on your duration of 50 on the intake for how much RPM you want to go. And then that's how I'm setting them up. Then I use the LSA so I can tailor those numbers to where I want these timing events to happen. Because, these are just, once again, they're just air pumps, air in, air out. Intake closing, exhaust opening are the two most important events. Get the duration at 50 around where your cylinder head flow, where you want the RPM to go. Then I would be looking at exhaust, how far you want to split them, and then the lobe separation angle, and then ICL, the intake center line, how you're going to set this up where you want it to work. That's how I would look at it. I really wouldn't focus so much on just a tight LSA as a number. That's just how I do it. And I've worked for a lot of cam companies, and it does work. It works very well.
Well, I have a picture here. I'm gonna throw up here. Let's see if I can get it. I found it the other day, and I was like totally impressed.
What's this?
A picture.
Oh, okay.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get it off my phone right now as we're talking. Present.
Can you just go full John Wilburn?
I can, but this is going to be better.
Oh.
let's see here. All right.
Hey, while you're waiting for that, I got to show this. I've been waiting years for this engine to happen. I'm going to go full John Wilburn. This is an LS, and when I was back at Crower, we made a flat plane crank. If you notice, that is a flat plane, and that is those are titanium rods. So as that was made 6 or 7 years ago, and it's just now at KPE Racing getting put together. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'll keep you guys posted as that goes. And I believe the firing order is going to be, here, I'll do it one more time if you guys didn't see it. There, that's it right there. So if you guys haven't seen it or heard it, I think it's going to be a Ferrari firing order on an LS, which is something I was really looking forward to back in, like, I think it was 18 or 19 when that was made. So, and then the world went to shit.
Well, I got this picture here. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see that?
Yep.
There's your exhaust triangle that you're talking about that's in the blue, or your overlap triangle.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is like really super helpful when you're trying to understand camshaft timing events for the intake and exhaust valve, how they interrelate.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's talking about there is that exhaust triangle, or the overlap triangle, is that blue thing right there.
That's right.
That's where you would decide where you want your intake to close in relation to the exhaust. And then the wider that triangle gets, is that the tighter the cam?
No, the wider the triangle gets, that would be the wider the LSA. So
Okay.
So looking where the intake closing event happens, typically you're going to be in that, right in that, 50, 60, 70 mark right there. But do you notice that the exhaust opening right there, those two are the two most important events, and they're really close to each other. If you notice, there's 1 and then 2. So the two most important events happen literally right next to each other, right there. As far as where, I'm sorry, that's not 2. That's not true. Where is it at? It just moved. Exhaust. Where's the exhaust opens? I'm sorry, exhaust closing. Where's exhaust closing on this thing?
Exhaust closing is the very beginning of that triangle.
The very beginning. Sorry. So yeah. So I'm sorry. So that's it. Exhaust closes, number 5. So yeah. So number 2 and number 5, and where the exhaust closes, that's basically your overlap triangle right there.
So I just thought this was. I grabbed this picture because somebody put it up somewhere, and I'm like, man, that's a good picture to relate everything to. Because I mean, I've never seen a picture like that before, but I'm sure there's something out there. Yeah. All right. So, okay. Clayton's Toolbox says, I guess I have shorty headers and glass packs. Do you think there's anything to be gained by removing the glass packs?
I've got glass packs on the Cookie Monster, man. Literally,
there's nothing wrong with the glass pack. No. It's like when you can look through the exhaust system, you're golden. But they do. The downside to the glass pack used to be the glass insulation in there used to burn out and just like fall out the back. And so then it just was garbage. It sounded terrible.
It was actually a megaphone then at that point. It was like a sound chamber of noise.
Let's see. Buick Smith says, is there a way to put a knock sensor on an old engine just connected to an indicator light? Yes. And here's what's interesting about a knock sensor is a knock sensor doesn't require any electricity to run one. It's essentially a piezoelectric crystal inside, and then when pressure is introduced to the crystal, it creates a voltage, right? So the easiest thing to do, I think, probably in your case, would be to get the one-wire GM knock sensors off of like the 90s model cars, and they screw into the water jacket fittings in the blocks. So almost every GM block would have the same kind of type fitting. Even it doesn't even have to be GM; it could be Mopar or Ford. But as long as it's you're talking the pipe plug fitting that's generally in the water jacket at the base of the block. You've seen people put radiator petcock setups in there so they can drain the water out of the block. That's where you put the knock sensor. And then you run one wire, and I think I would probably run the one wire to like a diode, because I don't know what kind of voltage comes out of there, but I can't see it making 12 volts to turn on an incandescent bulb. It always needs 5 volts to turn on a diode. And that's how I would run it. I would run it with a diode.
I'm going to be putting knock sensors on the Slant 6. I'm going to be running a Mopar style knock sensor. So yeah, and I'm just going to read it to a gauge. It's just going to be a light that comes on. I don't remember the company that I just got it's from, but basically it's an idiot light.
Okay, we have a 2010 Jeep that won't shut off. Disconnect the battery, keeps going, had to pull pump fuse. Okay, good, until the last rainstorm. So probably what you've lost there is a ground.
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like. But this used to be an inherent problem when you're talking to racers when they put the switch in the back of the car. And a lot of that can be controlled with a diode, so that when it can't backfeed to the field wire on the alternator, right?
Exactly.
So you put a diode in line and it can't backfeed it.
Happens to a lot of Mopar people who put an MSD 6 box on their car and they're still running like a balance resistor on some of that stuff because they'll backfeed itself.
Huh. I didn't know that. Let's see. Ron Ward says Nitrous loves lower LSAs.
Yeah.
You know what Nitrous really loves too? Cylinder heads that aren't wedge heads. If you're running like a croissant head or a freaking, Cleveland style or big block Chevy or a Hemi, ooh, man, it makes a big difference on those engines. Let's see. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're kind of caught up here. So,
yeah.
Mama M3 says, anyone have any experience with Craig Davies electric water pumps? Are they any good?
Never ran that.
I've never run one either. I run what everybody else runs is the Mazier water pumps. Yeah. And the thing was that the guy, what was his name? Greg Mazier? Yeah, he used to run with us out in Verona.
Yep.
So his family made those water pumps. And so it was just like, well, I'll buy one because if it breaks, I just give him shit right to his face, you know?
And also, too, he'd rebuild them for almost nothing.
Yeah, like freaking nothing. And he was a great dude. He wouldn't give him shit to his face, and his stuff was like quality stuff. So, I mean.
And you could go to this place in Escondido and literally just watch them build that. And then they would rebuild yours for you. And they would just literally take the electric motor out. And then they would put new O-rings in it. It would take them 10 or 15 minutes. And then, if you're a racer guy, he'd be like, yeah, you know what? We'll catch you, buy me a beer later or something or whatever it was, at the track. And because it was always up there at the match racing.
Well, usually it all got washed out at the end. When we did the match race stuff, even when it was just a bracket weekend, everybody would that was what was cool about Verona drag strip that I haven't been to everywhere else. I haven't seen anywhere else.
Except for the No Name Nationals, because I know what you're going to say.
The No Name Nationals is very much like that, right? Yes. And we did that on purpose. I mean, that was the whole idea, was to build camaraderie. But Verona, we used to hang out. Like, say the race was on Saturday, everybody would show up on Friday night, and we would just hang out, eat everybody's food, drink a lot of beer, just tell a lot of stories around the campfire. And then the next day you'd go racing, and it didn't matter if you pulled the guy in the first round, you were going to beat the crap out of him, you know? But then as soon as you're done, if you were the one that got beat, you're on the grill cooking some sausages or some burgers or whatever and offering it to everybody else that's still in. So, I mean, it was a really cool, like, the camaraderie was great, and it felt like it was a family atmosphere over a racer's atmosphere.
Exactly. And the only place I've ever felt that, and I think I've told that to John in Dallas, is that the No Name Nationals was the only place that I've ever felt that, like, I'm home at a racetrack type feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually what makes the No Name Nationals famous in in our circle. Yeah. Is that Deke Denny, that's a tech guy, he said it the best first year. He said, we had a family reunion where a drag race broke out.
Pretty much.
Yeah. That's what it was. So
if nothing else, you get to hang out with your buddies at least, for 3 days at a drag strip.
Right? Well, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. The guy that's in here now, Brian Brinker from Dust Devil Garage. Mm-hmm. He's been out there for 3 years in a row. And he's went down the track one time. He will come there and just hang out. Him and Jed Scott will be at the far end of the pit. They'll be grilling. They'll be hanging out, be drinking beers, and just being friendly.
Them.
Yeah. And it's like a vacation for everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Michael Schmidt says 2 glass packs wouldn't joining the 2 primary pipes together before mufflers, Y pipe, and then having a short collector pipe with single muffler to back be better performance for scavenging.
I would do your regular exhaust. If you're going to put glass packs on a car, then make them a resignator and put them at the very end right before they go out. If you're going to put glass packs on it,
And
that
put a Y pipe,
helps the best.
or not a Y pipe, put an X pipe in between them.
Yep.
Right. So you can use either one to essentially, your exhaust gases can go out either one.
Yep.
But the X pipe is going to help a lot in scavenging.
Mm-hmm. It changes the tone. It mellows out the tone quite a bit too.
It makes them raspier though when you wind them up.
Up top, yes.
Yeah. Bobby Frizzell says I run one of those Moroso kits that use a little electric motors and a tooth belt. Basically convert your water pump to an electric water pump. Yes, that's an old school kit. That's actually electric. The electric pump motor is a fan motor from a Ford Mustang, and then the cog belt is what do they call that? A Gilmer belt. That was made for stock car guys for oil pumps. So
that's what I ran for the longest time in my car until I could afford a Mazir.
Mazir doesn't make anything for my junk, so I just run that Moroso setup. But Mrs. One-Eyed Cat said we were all family now. And see, here's all the folks that normally go to No Name Nationals for the family vacation. Let's see, Wendy and Don and Ron and all the Englishes show up in full force. And they'll generally be there a day before. And then Dust Devil Garage, here you go. No Name Nationals is my vacation. Bigfoot and Mopars. Yep. Camp NSB, middle of the pit area, 3 years running. See, it's just, this is where everybody shows up to just have that fun and enjoy the whole event. And it really, it's like, no one cares about the racing. No one cares about the burnout contest. No one,
unless you're in the car going down the track. That's when I care about the racing.
Well, sure, but I mean, well, you and I go there to race, but you have to admit we're probably the most hardcore racers there, and we still just have fun hanging out in the pit and eating food and talking about stuff. And
yeah,
I mean, it's not. I mean, that's what we do. And so Colleen Tebow says, "No Name Nationals is the only vacation I take." And then Mohawk 62 says, "No Name Nationals is my only family reunion." And Kim and Buff says, "And me and Buff." So there you go. They come out every year for that thing. Let's see. 38 Racing says it's also my vacation. So see, everyone pretty much shows up out there. And what's funny is that out of all the people in the chat, you can always when I'm looking at the chat numbers, you can always pick them out. Like we see them every year at No Name Nationals. So I mean, you know who's going to be there.
And also too, what's good about it too is everybody's equal to No Name Nationals. There's no hierarchy. Who cares if you got 80,000 subscribers? You're just as important as the guy there that's got 501 because he did his 500, he ground, and everybody's on the same level playing field.
Well, Dust Devil Garage says it here. Great. I'm nobody special and never will be. I don't know about that, if that's true. He will be. I mean, he is someone special already because Brian Brinker is, when John and I were putting this event together and we were creating everything, Brian Brinker was the guy that we created it around, right? If that makes any sense. The regular guy that just has a car at home that they put together that they want to bring out, they want to show off to their friends. How would they do that? And then you wanted to put a lot of emphasis on them being able to interact with the big YouTuber or the small YouTuber. No one there has an ego. No one has any special parking, nothing like that. Well, okay, there is troll seating, but besides that, I guess that's everyone is pretty much on a level playing field. They're equal. And that was the whole idea is when we created the event, we tried to pretty much encapsulate Brian Brinker as the center because he's just a regular guy like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so
and
if
it's
it
funny you
worked for
say that.
Brian, it worked for everybody.
And with Brian too, this is exactly how I formulated it too. He's just like, he's the regular guy. So that's the reason why I made one of the videos of how to modify your small block Mopar for the hydraulic lifter. That's his block. I did that for him because, he's the regular guy. And if this helps him out to get, 25 or even 26 to get a car there that's actually going to go down the track and race, hey, why not? That's what we're here for. If you can make some content and help someone out at the same time, have at it.
Blue Grit Garage says, love the ambiance. Last year was the first time that Blue Grit even came.
Yes.
And like, I didn't kind of like at the event, it's hard for me to run around and like meet people and it sink in, but they pitted next to me. They were like right on the other side of me, him and his daughter. And
they were cool, man.
They had so much fun. And he went like, okay, burnout contest is usually some kind of jalopy bucket that somebody goes out there and just beats on, right?
Not
like
this guy.
Rags it out. This guy drives like a 65 Mustang and had an inline 6 and was out there just murdering it during the burnout contest. And they had the most fun. They hung out. They got it right away. They showed up. They did the camping. They did the cooking out. They got the hanging out with everybody. There is nobody blowing anybody off. It's just like literally having fun and just hanging out. It's like the way I kind of look at it is like cruising went away in the 1990s. But before cruising went away, this is what cruising would have been if you rented a drag strip and had a cruise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I thought was cool is I don't remember his daughter's name, but she made a hammock. What was that?
Yeah, Anna. Her name was Anna, I think. I can't remember what his name was. So I'm sorry.
She made a hammock, right? And she had this like little cover over it. And I was just like, dude, how cool would that be to be on an open trailer, sleeping in a hammock, just outside.
And she did it the whole time, the entire 3 days.
That's right.
So Mean Street Mopar says, I've been to No Name every year. I haven't raced yet. I really enjoy just hanging out. And you know what? Heaven's Mopars is the same way. He will come from Seattle, and he has yet to race a car.
Wow.
Right? Every year.
You know that every year I've brought a different car to No Name Nationals?
Every year I have the same stuff. Well, no, the first one I didn't even race in. I was busy running it with John.
I brought the green car, the Lizard King, the first year. Second year I brought the Charger. Third year I brought the Cookie Monster.
So Colleen says that Brian got the first clock, correct? Yes, he did. He did. And it is Walter. That's right. Walter and Anna. Okay. So, did they ever answer a question? Yes, about the fan. We did. Brinker says we're making him blush. Well, we better not make me blush, man. I mean, look, you put that knuckle duster together. Like, I never thought it would be there. Okay. It was just a bare shell when you started. And I mean, of course, everybody's like had to start with a bare shell, but it was like we announced the race in December and you were planning on being there in September and it had just nothing but a bare shell.
Yeah.
I never expected it to be there. So, see, and Mohawk 62 said we would miss Dust Devil and Knuckle Duster if he didn't make it. Of course, he's become like a I don't know, a foundational point of No Name Nationals. He's there every year, hanging out. Everybody has fun. Bigfoot's Mopar says, I remember the forming of the event being discussed on Brian's early live streams. Yeah, he used to do those hardcore, like 4, 5, 6 hour long live streams.
Wow. I remember that he had me on one of his channels one time, one of the live streams.
So One Eyed Cat says, because of No Name Nationals, my car is no longer a death trap. I didn't realize how bad it was. Still have more to do. Hey, man, you've come a long way. Everybody here has. And I think it's made our community better. Like, No Name Nationals has made our community better and YouTube better as a whole. I think so. Think about this. If No Name Nationals didn't exist, there would not be Pole Barn Garage, right? There will not be
Junkyard Willie.
Chad. Huh?
Junkyard Willie wasn't Junkyard Willie just for
Junkyard Willie. He wouldn't even exist. So like our community is being built by this event, and YouTube as a whole is being built by this event.
I wouldn't have a YouTube. Well, I had a YouTube channel. I made a YouTube channel like 14 or 15 years ago just to post up like my motorcycle content. And basically when Dallas was telling me about this, I changed it to Slant Daily Garage, and then I started making videos. That's what I did.
Well, yeah, yours was like chaotic when you first started it, because remember it was in the midst of the Tony getting mad and
Yeah.
everybody out kind of thing, and
Madness.
oh
Yeah.
gosh, what a mess. Blue Grit Garage says Anna and I were at all 3 No Name Nationals. Entered a car once. It is a nice, peaceful camping trip with some intermittent chaos. I love it.
Perfect.
I look forward to it every year. It's at the perfect time of the year. It's right when it's starting to cool off and it's starting to get fall. And it's literally like the last few weeks of fall before the weather starts to turn. It's the perfect time of the year.
This last year though was a little warm. This last 24 was
it was hot. Yeah, it was hot. Like I leave from there and I pick up my son and I go down to cruising the coast, and it's another week or 2 weeks longer of
cars and
that, like nice warm air, before it gets cold. But yeah, and you should do that this year, Shane. Like I'm going down to cruising the coast. Maybe I'll take Clarence Cobblepot down there and just cruise up and down Highway 90 and go to the swap meet. That swap meet is badass. It always has been. I sent Andy Wood a picture of a freaking Allen Root drag race big block Ford. Like I want to say it was like just the block. It was a used block with like $3,600 or something. And he was like, dude, those are rare. I'm like, yeah, but I ain't got $3,600. Bobby Frizzell says, last year was my first year. I showed up wanting to race, ended up only making one pass, got too busy hanging out with everyone.
Right.
Yeah, but you had a good time, dude. You had a smile on your face the whole time.
Yeah. I was just actually dwelling on something. You said earlier that nobody has like assigned parking. It's funny though, is that everybody suctioned themselves off and they've always gone to the same spot. Like we're always by Tech because we help out Deke, and that's just kind of where we're at. Then like you said, they're way down like Brian, and they're all the way at the other end of the track. It's just like everybody's got their little spot. It's pretty cool.
Well, we ended up where we were because the first year I think I had the camper.
No, the first year, you were at like right there at the very beginning.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I had my own camper spot up there. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then each year from that, we've just been helping with the tech.
And Mark from Bigfoots at Mopar says nobody films for YouTube. Too busy hanging out, kind of backwards considering. I know. And John and I, the first 2 years, we set up that Wi-Fi network, and the Wi-Fi wasn't all that good, but it was like a workaround for. It was impossible to put Wi-Fi on a whole drag strip. Right, that's what the hard part was, especially Jeffers, because it's like literally a black hole. We put the Wi-Fi stuff, and then we noticed no one was using it, and it probably because it sucks so bad. I don't know. I didn't even try. I just get so busy having fun at the event, hanging out and doing all that stuff that I never even thought about filming anything.
I think the car show is the greatest kickoff. There at Lambert's. Everybody's having dinner together and you just sit with whoever. That's the best part about it,
that was so that whole thing, do you know how that came about? I'll tell you how it came about here. Okay. John and I went to scope out the track. If you remember, we put up the big billboard.
Banner. Yeah, billboard, yeah.
And we went out there in like June, I guess. Put up this billboard. It must have been 11,000 degrees. And he and I, it was a steep learning curve because, we're putting up a billboard. I have zero experience with it. John has zero experience with it. We ran that JLG lift and spent the whole day putting out this banner. It was really windy and it was very dang difficult. And when we got done, we were just like exhausted. We made like 2 or 3 trips over to freaking Lowe's to get screws and tools and stuff like that to help get this banner up. And when we got done, we went to Lambert's to let them know we're having the event. Well, we're like covered in sweat and dirt and exhausted, and it's been a long day. And we talked to the manager, and the manager's like, look, fellas, we've never reserved a single table for anyone ever in the history of Lambert's. However many people you show up with is fine by us. And I'm like, this guy doesn't have an idea what's about to hit him, right? Has no clue. Like 200 YouTubers coming in here all at once with their families, right? They won't stand a chance. So I'm like, if that's the way you want it, pal, that's the way you're going to get it. So we pushed it even harder and called it the Flash Mob Car Show. Anyone was welcome, right? And we all just piled in the parking lot at one time. Well, 15 minutes before we went to the very first one. Well, no, it wasn't 15 minutes. It was like that morning of. I was talking to Possum, which is the guy that runs the track now. And John and I were out there set up for the first No Name Nationals. And I said, that guy at Lambert's, that manager was such a dick. He wouldn't even let us reserve any spots. And he was like, how many people do you think is going to be there? I'm like, well, let's say there's 200 registered YouTubers and then their family. So some of them could have you're looking at 400, maybe 600 people at one time.
Minimum. 400 minimum, yeah.
And he's like, oh, man, you know what? I went to high school with this guy that runs Lambert's named Scotty Lambert. And he's like, I got his phone number. Let's call him. So I called him and I said, hey, this is, who I am. And this is what we're doing. He was like, dude, that is so badass. He's like, why have I never thought of doing something like that? And he said, I tell you what, we'll give you the whole east end of the parking lot and we'll rope it off for you. You guys just show up over there. And he's like, I don't want the manager to know. I want them to get inundated with all these YouTubers and just freaking befuddled and they deserve it. And I'm like, okay, thanks, dude. And then we showed up and it was like everything was coned off and it was all roped and like, wow, this is like literally somebody actually cared, But I just thought it was so funny. The first time I walked in there, here's like two hacks Jeff throwing rolls across the whole entire restaurant. Dr. Art's filming everybody. They're doing these challenges on the tables, and it's like, oh my gosh, this place is a zoo. It's great. But it was so much fun. Yes, One-Eyed Cat says No Name Nationals has its own neighborhood. That's true. And Bigfoot's and Mopars less than 3 months to assemble. Luckily, I have every part for it except door glass. Oh, he's almost done with another car.
Good.
I can't. I think Bigfoot's and Mopars, didn't they have? Who had the Jack Pine Savage car?
I don't know.
Was that Bigfoot's and Mopars? I think. Okay. I'm so terrible with remembering names. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Buick Smith, need input on a light towing application up to 4,000 pounds, mostly around 2,800 pounds. What overdrive trans would be better, 204R or NV 3500? NV all the way.
Yeah, that 204R will definitely not.
Do not tow with that 204R.
Nope. It's too light of a transmission. It's literally designed for the least amount of rotating mass for the highest amount of efficiency. It is not made for towing at all.
Yeah, it came in the full-size GMs in like the mid to late 80s and early 90s, but it is not robust enough to tow with, especially when you start looking at the overdrive ratio on that thing is 0.67, okay? The 700R4 is better suited for towing than that 204R just because of the overdrive ratio not being so deep. That's such, yeah, I wouldn't use a 200. I would use a turbo 350 before I'd use that 204R.
I would agree. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Mohawk 62 says it has such an awesome crowd. A guy can literally sleep on his open trailer. That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
True.
Let's see. Bigfoot's and Mopar says I got to ride from Pennsylvania in a 468 big block 71 Chevelle to Sykeston with Testis Speed Shop last year. Felt like I was 17 again.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Bobby Frizzell says the drive to and from Lambert's was the best part, honestly. The hot rods on the street just enjoying themselves. It's the perfect kickoff for the event, is how I look at it. that is the perfect kickoff for it. Everybody gets excited and into it, and then you got your lunch or dinner, or I guess it's dinner at Lambert's. But generally, it's the drive to, the parking, and the drive from is what everybody talks about the most.
Yeah. My goal is to try to get Cookie Monster from one end to the other and take the Lambert's drive.
What Clint's coming in like Indiana Jones here with his arm underneath the boulder, pulling his hat,
like grabbing his hat.
Yeah. Like, hey, Clint, welcome to the live. We're getting ready to close her down.
Yeah. As we're getting close, man, you got any new videos coming out or anything? You got anything you're working on?
Clint's been working.
No, you.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay. Besides gathering parts for the 63 Buick, which Clint has a few that I need to go pick up, I got a windshield for it, and I got the stuff to cut the rear end down, and Clint's got all that stuff. And then let's see, I will be doing a walk around video, an intro video for Clarence Cobblepot, the 78 Buick Century, and I think, and that's probably about it right now. I'm just about to get back on the What If 300 Buick, so that'll be coming up next. I think that's really about it.
For me, I'm going to do a little quick video on getting your car ready to be, put up so that we're ready to go to the track. And then basically it's all going to be Plan Z material until me and Joe get our little rematch. I'll probably go out to Newport for that. But while I still have you guys and we're winding down here, just remember June 1st to go to John Wilburn's channel. This is for all the no-name 500 people. And this is how you can get content. He's going to be going over some procedures like the 30 shorts in 30 days. So once again, June 1st, go check it over there on John Wilburn, the bringer of the No Name Nationals. And he's going to help out. They're going to basically have a workshop for you on how to get the subs up and how to keep things moving along. So go check that out on his channel.
Okay. And then Clint says that's the perfect analogy. So Mark says, yeah, sold the Jack Pine Savage back to the guy that built it back in 1969 with his father. His nickname was Jack Pine Savage, given so to him by his father-in-law. All right, well, that's cool. I thought that car was amazing. It was beautiful. But you know what? I think this is pretty much it. We're winding down for the evening.
Yeah.
This went by quick. It slowed down there about 10 minutes after the hour, and then
bam.
Yeah, pick right back up.
Yeah.
So Clayton's Toolbox says my 63 Buick is super cool. I hope to have it like super running at the track. My goal is next year at the Buick Nationals, I'm going to be there. I will be there.
And that's not far from you, right? That's Bowling Green, right?
Yeah, it's like an hour and 20 minutes. So not bad. Mohawk 62 says, have a great night, everyone. Thanks for the live, Dallas and Shane. So check out John Wilburn on Friday. Let's see. I don't know if Buff and Kim are going live after this, but maybe so. But go check out their pictograms that they do. Buff and Kim's lives, they're fun. They're just, last night I watched one of them. It was about 1967. But the cool thing was, it was like all these weird oddball cars. It was like Citrons and freaking Petras and weird stuff that you don't normally see. And what's cool is Buff has been around the world and then some, and he has stories about almost every one of them. So
I worked on a Citron once.
Did you?
Inside the United States. It was actually imported here. It's got this crazy leveling suspension.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that spring shock thing they got going on.
It's like this little screw spinny thing. It's just in hydraulics. It's crazy. Madness.
But it's like they got all kinds of wheel travel. That's what they need on like off-road stuff, honestly.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so we're out of here. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, you guys take it easy. Have a good week.